I'm not going to go into heaven. I'm not going to go to heaven then.
No. Well, you would go to hell.
People sometimes imagine that God is simply eager to send people into torment, but the biblical picture is more complex than that. If someone rejects God's grace and the ransom sacrifice that God has offered for our salvation, what really happens is that God removes his gracious influence from that person, and hell is where this influence is lacking. People don't realize what is involved here. Jesus said in Matthew 25:41 that it is a place prepared for the devil and his angels. That means hell was not originally designed for humanity. It was prepared for Satan and the fallen angels who rebelled against God. But here is the serious implication. If someone rejects God, they are by default aligning themselves with the same rebellion that Satan represents. So if you reject God's kingdom, you end up in the same domain where the devil belongs. That place does not have God's gracious presence. Instead, it is under his wrath. Now, this wrath of God is not only expressed through direct punishment. A major part of it is that God does not influence the atmosphere there for good to thrive the way he still does here on earth. Think about the world we live in today. Even an atheist might sometimes feel compelled to do good. A person's conscience might stop them from carrying out an evil plan. There is often something inside that pulls you back from a bad course of action, even if you do not consciously believe in God. The Bible actually speaks about this. In Romans 2:14-15, Paul explains that even people without the law sometimes show that the requirements of the law are written on their hearts, their consciences also bearing witness. In other words, God's influence is still present in this world. Even though the world is broken and full of evil, God is still restraining evil here. But imagine a place where that restraint is completely removed. Hell represents what happens when someone chooses existence without God. If someone refuses God's grace, they also refuse the source of goodness, mercy, truth, and moral restraint. And when God's presence is removed, what remains is evil without restraint. So the sobering reality is this: if someone does not choose God, they are ultimately choosing the place prepared for the enemies of God. And in that place, you will see the worst expression of what humanity and fallen spirits can become when God no longer restrains evil. Devil himself has not been confined in hell, but he seemed to go in there and out. But there are other demons who sinned during Noah's day who are confined in hell. Wes Huff Point on the Diary of the CEO is valid.